Good morning, good morning, good morning. Come in. I am John Beckmann, Professor John Beckmann, Dr. John Beckmann, U.S. Senate GOP primary candidate in the state of Alabama. Vote for me March 3rd. So today, we are going to talk about killer instincts. I'll define instincts, and we'll talk about this in relation to the last video that I made. But first, I need to wake up. I'm really tired today. We had to get up early because we had to bring the kids for the first day of school. So, everybody get your coffee. It's my wife's cappuccino. Make sure it smells good. Let's do a citation to the simultaneous libation of Scott Adams. Cheers. All right, let's make this video. Okay, so today we're going to talk about instincts. What is an instinct? An instinct in biology is a behavior that you're born with. So like when the most famous example of this for humans is when a baby comes out of the womb, the first thing it knows how to do is suck. So it can nurse right away as soon as it comes out. And sucking is an instinct to humans. That means it's a behavior that's written in the genetic code. It's in your DNA, and you have genes that actually program you, and they tell you how to do a certain behavior as soon as you're born. Okay, that's an instinct. So this is just proof. So let me just talk about this in relation to the last video. In the last video, I talked about, I hypothesized that there might be genes or mutations or problems in somebody's DNA sequence that predispose them to making horrible decisions like committing a mass shooting. And I talked about yesterday how it's highly likely that in the future we will monitor people's genomes, we will sequence their genomes, and if we find a certain genetic genotype that predisposes them to murderous behavior, we will probably keep an eye on those people. And now I'm reinforcing that. If you did not believe me that it was possible for a gene to possibly predispose somebody to murder, today I'm going to talk about instincts, and I'm going to sort of lay the scientific case for that argument. Okay? So instincts are like, if you have any experience with computer programming, when you initialize or make a constructor for a method, okay? Those are like instincts. You're born with these set built-in methods, like sucking, okay? Now there's actually a thing that I just learned today, which I had never known about this before. So I was watching Joe Rogan with Weinstein. Weinstein or Weinstein? Einstein. It's Weinstein. Eric Weinstein. So it's Joe Rogan with Eric Weinstein. And they started talking about biology. And they taught me something as a biologist that I had never heard about before. So there is something in biology that we find in nature called facultative Siblicide. Okay? This is when a mother will have two offspring. Okay? So she builds in this redundancy. Instead of making one offspring, she makes two. But there's only enough food for one to survive. So then what happens is there's a genetic programming in each of these two offspring that as soon as they come out of the womb, they fight to the death, and one kills the other one, and once it kills it, that's the one that the mother wants to survive because that's the strongest, that fight is representative of the strongest genes. So the mother, watch the Joe Rogan with Eric Weinstein video. In that video, they'll show you. You can see this with hyenas. Hyenas do this, and you can see this with some bird. It's either the blue-footed booty or something else. Blue-footed booby or something else. They have these babies. The two babies come out, they hatch, whatever, or they come out of the womb, and as soon as they come out, they start fighting each other. And the one that survives is the one that the mother invests all her energy in because that fight, like I said, is representative of that offspring having the best genes. Okay, so why am I telling you this? You might be disgusted that I'm telling you that. What I'm saying is that this is evidence, proof, that murder can be programmed into the biology of an organism through their genetic composition in instinct, okay? So if animals can be capable of this, humans are capable of this. And what I said in the last video is we need to sequence the genomes of the mass shooters to see if there's anything different or wrong with their DNA composition so that we can tell if people might be predisposed to this activity in the future. Okay. So this line of thought is very, very, very controversial. And let me explain why. So, what this is going to lead to, and I'm predicting that maybe this will be the next civil rights movement. What this is going to lead to is once we get to a point in society where everybody's genomes have been sequenced, once we get to that point, there will be genetic discrimination. Okay, so just like in the past, and now we have discrimination based on somebody's color or based on somebody's creed. In the future, you can't hear me. These are I'm blocking this guy. These are trolls that run through. If you're one of the Russian bots, the Russian trolls, you'll get blocked. If you're somebody who comes in and says I can't hear you, you're gonna get blocked. Okay, just FYI. If you do anything else that pisses me off, you'll get blocked. Okay. What was my train of thought? Oh, genetic discrimination. So imagine you're an insurance company. Imagine if you are an insurance company and you have access to all the genomes of your clients. Okay? You're going to look through those genomes and you're going to look for genotypes that are predisposed to risky behaviors. If you're, say, your car insurance, you're going to be able eventually in the future to correlate genomes of people who have genes that make them more likely to get in a car accident because they drive aggressively. Or you're going to be able to find, like I said in the last video, you're going to be able to find genes that correlate with very, very aggressive behaviors like mass shootings. And you're going to be able to find that. And then you're going to start discriminating against people based on the genomes they have even before they've ever committed any crime. I think that this is going to happen in the future. This is a prediction. And eventually what's going to happen is, so there's going to be people walking around and maybe a bunch of these people have this genetic composition, but they're predisposed. So that means that they all don't do the particular behavior that you're predicting them to have. Only a subset of them does that. They're predisposed. So you're going to people will start discriminating against other people based on the genotype that they have, despite the fact that they haven't committed that particular crime or that particular behavior yet. Won't those same genomes exist in politicians? Yeah, I'm saying, well, it's a good question. I mean, you're going to be able to, what I'm saying is you will be able to correlate genomes with behavior in the future. And yes, you will probably find politicians that have certain behaviors. You will probably find politicians who have very aggressive behaviors. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of those politicians had genetic genotypes that did predispose them to deviant behaviors. That would not surprise me at all. But what I was saying is you can't discriminate, you won't be able to discriminate against people based on that genotype because they haven't committed the crime yet. But it's going to be a very, very, very tricky future. It's going to be a strange future because we will be able to predict the probability that people will do certain behaviors, and it will be like I talked about this yesterday, it will be like Minority Report, where there will be certain people who are predisposed to committing deviant behavior, and we will basically be watching those people, discriminating against them. So I have no idea how to solve that problem. I don't have no idea how to solve the discrimination against a certain genotype problem. But that is coming. That will happen as soon as we get to the point where the government has all of our genomes. And I'm not being conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying like, oh my God, the government is going to sequence all your genomes. You better not give your blood samples. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that the cost of sequencing a genome is going to get so low that everybody will do this themselves just based on their health. They want to have a healthy life, and so they want to know what information is encoded in their genomes. So everybody will eventually sequence their own genomes, and then that data will be somewhere. And there will be a means through which a government will easily be able to access that data. So this is going to be the new civil rights of the future, is genetic genotype discrimination. Any questions? We have another sip. Cheers. Hey, DJ, heard a mage. Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to go get ready for work here. What about genome masking technology? That's a really interesting question. So I've thought about this. So if like when people use DNA, are we human? We're kind of like cyborgs. But wait, I want to answer this previous question. Genome masking technology. That's actually very, very easy. If you wanted to hide your DNA, if you wanted to commit a crime and hide your DNA, all you would have to do is take like a hair sample from somebody you wanted to frame. You'd do a whole bunch of PCR reactions, or you'd collect a bunch of their DNA, and then you'd go to basically your crime scene and you'd spread their DNA all over the crime scene. That's why like you need to be very, very skeptical about nowadays about DNA evidence, because it would be so easy to frame somebody. Like just go collect somebody's hair, just go collect somebody's fingernails, just go collect somebody's skin. You could even PCR. You could make, so PCR is a technique through which you can amplify DNA. You could literally like amplify a whole bunch of sections of somebody's DNA that you know that the crime scene investigators are going to screen for, and then you could spread that DNA all over the crime scene. So that already exists. We already have genome masking technology that would effectively hide your own DNA. But what I'm saying is people will sequence their genomes because they will want to do it themselves. They will get a benefit from having their genome sequenced because there will be a benefit to their health. And then once that data is in the cloud, it will be accessed, it will be hacked into very easily by a government. I am here, but in. You're welcome. Any other questions? That was a good question. I think the other question was like, are we human? What if a virus is released that only targets certain genomes? That's very interesting. So when viruses invade, that's possible. When viruses invade, so virus will, if you have a cell, if you have a human cell, a virus will invade a cell by binding to a specific receptor, which is a little protein on the outside of that cell. And I've talked before in previous videos about how humans are now re-engineering human genomes. The first CRISPR gene-edited human babies, they modified a receptor that made that baby resistant to the AIDS, the HIV virus, okay? So those babies, those newly modified human babies are resistant to AIDS. So what this person is saying is now possible. We could engineer a population of people that is resistant to a certain disease, and then you could imagine an apocalyptic scenario where where that virus is now released and kills all the people who don't have that genetic like modification. That could happen. That's actually like technically feasible. And all it would involve is engineering the receptors of a cell in a means that the virus discriminates against cells that have or do not have the particular receptor. That could happen. These are good questions. Any other questions? These questions are going to get me in trouble. Okay, I will end it there. Have a good day.